Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the late night special edition of Matrix Live Episode 6, featuring me, Matthew. No Amandine this week, as she's on holiday. It's been a long day, and it's getting on for midnight, but we're going ahead with the episode to let you know all the amazing things which have been happening in Matrix this week. Starting off with funding. So, no new corporate sponsors, sadly, to announce this week. But we do have activity on Patreon. We're up at $2,405 a month at the moment, which is tantalizingly close to the $2,500 a month target, which we set as the initial goal for Patreon. So if you know anybody who isn't yet donating and who likes Matrix, or anybody who is wildly generous and rich and wants to help us out, then please do let them know and remind them to try to donate to keep us going. Meanwhile, on the corporate side of things, again, we're really dependent on any companies who like what we're doing, and it might be somebody you work for, it might be somebody you know about who could benefit from Matrix or is benefiting from Matrix. Please get them to get in touch and help support us. So that's it for funding for now. Something completely different. Lots of activity on iOS this week. So we had a release week before, but since then a whole bunch of new stuff has landed. Probably most exciting for me, because I'm an iOS user, is the dark theme at last. So this is here on development. You can kind of see it right there. It's actually really nice. I think when you start using it, there's probably no going back. And what else is going on? We've also got widgets landing on the web. It's probably not going to be in the upcoming release on web, but following on shortly afterwards. But one of the most interesting widgets we've implemented is Jitsi. So this is going and giving Hangouts quality video conferencing in Matrix at last. We've been waiting for it for ages. And actually on iOS, it's just landed today. And so I'm going to try to do a live demo. This can't possibly go wrong. And go into a self-chat, which I have here, which has got the big red bar at the bottom of it saying ongoing conference call in French, because I've been playing with the internationalization. And if I go and hit the button there, ooh, you can hear we've got some around, and very confusingly you can see me coming in from a Jitsi window, which is running in the background on my laptop here. So to tell that it's Jitsi, you can see we've got slightly different hang-up buttons there. We've also got these buttons on the right-hand side. And what else can I show you? Well, basically, if there are other people in the room, they could just pile on and have lots of little thumbnails along the bottom to show them. In fact, what we might be able to do is to tap on the different ones and say, hey, look, that's the view of my phone right now. You can see my big monitor and my study here at home. Or we can go back to this one here. So already that's doing more than the old one-to-one stuff was. We can even do a nice video hand-round effect like that, and audio hand-round. So Jitsi is coming, basically, everybody, and it's going to be awesome. Congratulations to Manu for implementing this on iOS, and thanks to Emil and Sagul and all the guys at Atlassian and Jitsi for building the SDK that we're working off here on iOS. So that's exciting. We've also got a whole bunch more languages coming in on iOS. I saw that Russian landed today, so thank you to whoever is translating this into Russian. And also, I think the plan is on the next release to include some of the GSoC goodness that's been going on. So I think Aram has been working on a share extension that will allow any old file to be file transferred up into Matrix via Riot, which would be really nice. And also Dennis has been doing an awful lot of work on getting CallKit iOS VoIP calling for normal one-to-one calls. So that should be landing too. So lots of exciting stuff happening on iOS. Meanwhile, Unique on Android has been off on holiday, so we haven't got any updates on Android. Meanwhile, on the web, we have our first release candidate for Riot 0.12, which landed on staging a few days ago. This is all about the rich text editor and mention support that has been working. It's been in progress for the last couple of weeks. So if you haven't tried it yet, go to riot.im/staging and have a play with it. It's looking really good. Also, we're hoping to get widgets in somehow to the release, although we're running a little bit late. There are a couple of weird issues that happen if you have multiple widgets on the page at the same time, at the same type. And I've actually been going through that with the folks working on widgets today to try to sort that out. If they can land at the same time, though, it's going to be an enormous release, so very exciting there. Also, even more languages. I think we're up to about 40 in total there, not all of them complete. And especially people who've been translating languages Often folks translate Riot, but they don't translate the actual Matrix SDK, which does most of the heavy lifting. So if you're wondering what's happened to Hebrew or I don't know, some of the other languages there, where we've got, or Esperanto critically, where we've got all of the Riot app translated, but none of the SDK. The reason we haven't turned it on is because we're missing the SDK part, so please consider going and implementing that. Finally, there's a bunch of under-the-hood end-to-end encryption changes landing at last, but none of those are yet visible to the user. It's all preparing for new stuff down the road. Meanwhile, on the back-end side of things, Synapse is horribly overdue a release. Folks are on holiday again this week, so we don't have any updates on the Synapse side of things. Meanwhile, Dendrite work, though, has been progressing well, and I saw the Dendrite Monolith running on develop for the first time this week. It's kind of exciting. We've got some stats already on how big and fast it is. It turns out that a completely virginal Dendrite Monolith weighs in at about 15 megabytes of RAM, which is obviously peanuts, but then again, it's not doing anything yet. That compares with about 50 megabytes for Synapse. Then when you start doing stuff with it, and you go and federate into a relatively busy room, apparently it goes up to 100 and 150 megabytes of RAM, which we're not sure how much it spikes, and perhaps it spikes and it drops down again, but again, that's sounding a lot better than Synapse, which, as we all know, is quite happy to use 300, 500, 1,000, 2,000 megabytes of RAM, depending on the phase of the moon. Something to say about Dendrite is that there is a lot of stuff to be done here, and a lot of it is relatively low-hanging. Lots of easy APIs, which we just haven't got to yet, and we're trying to move more people onto it, but it's the summer, people are on holiday, and there's other stuff going on. So if you're interested in Dendrite and you know any Golang, it's a really good time to come and hang out in #Dendrite dev on matrix.org and have a play with the app and see what endpoints you can add. I think that's about it. Turns out it's really hard to do these by yourself, unless you're just talking into a camera for, 5-10 minutes. But Amandine's still going to be off next week, so I suspect you'll have me again looking even more incoherent than ever. And, oh yeah, one other thing. I'm going to be in Kent on Sunday for anybody who happens to be in England and happens to be anywhere near Canterbury, speaking at OggCamp, which looks like a really fun open source gathering there in the east of England. So if you're in town and you want to see me enthuse about all things Matrix and show off the Jitsi stuff and show off all the dark themes and possibly even show off a Dendrite, then come along to that because it looks awesome. And I'm sure I'm missing something really obvious. I don't even have Amandine to ask. I think that's about it. Okay, well thanks for listening everybody. Sorry that this episode is coming so late, and see you again next week. Bye.